once again, welcome back to the 7-day web workshop on popular literature and women's writing. It is the 4th day, and as we are on a journey, in the previous 3 days, we have had wonderful, academic activities and wonderful lectures delivered by some of the most reverend academicians of our state from different universities. Today, it is the 4th day. As we know, that the first day we had a brilliant beginning by none other than the Honorable VC of University of Kalyani, Professor Dr. Shankar Kumar Ghosh, and it was followed by our principal ma'am of Shantipur College, Dr. Chandra Bhattacharya, and the entire program is designed by the HOD of English Department, Shantipur College, Dr. Anirban Bhattacharya. So today we are getting larger in terms of attendance. Now I find 43. I hope it is going to be well above of 150 because every day we get above 170, 180, 170 attendance. But it is true that I have been receiving messages from different people that they struggle to get into the this online program. I mean, because of some technical problems or some limitations, it becomes so difficult to accommodate everybody. But as you all know, that we have been trying to go for a live streaming of the program on YouTube, and there we we're expecting that a large number of participants are attending this web workshop from all across the country, and we are so happy, delighted to state that more than 1,500 participants. That includes students, principally, and then teachers, educators, research scholars, and general enthusiastic academic-minded persons. All are joining us, and we have been receiving a great flood of, I would say, repercussions, reflections from them. So we feel so encouraged by those repercussions and reflections, observations from different parts of the country. Today is the 4th day, and today we're so honored and privileged to announce that we're going to have another special lecture by a very renowned figure in the academic circle of North Bengal, and she is Dr. Sanjukta Chatterjee, Assistant Professor, Department of English. She's also the in charge of Center for Women's Studies, Raigarh University, and besides these two identities, she is also one of the honorable board members of a wonderful peer-reviewed journal published, I think, biannually, named Dialogic. She is there. It's a peer-reviewed journal, very quality publication. So she has been holding various posts, and as I myself have been a research scholar in Raigarh University, I myself have been the eyewitness what a dynamic and I would say energetic academic person she is, because whenever I have gone to take classes of the master's students, I have found that among them she has got great acceptance. They're very enthusiastic about her classes. So she, the students find in her a wonderfully academic-minded but student-friendly person. So that reflection must be there today also. And if I try to say something about her very illustrious academic career. Her multifarious academic achievements include her being awarded with gold medal when she stood first class first in her MA examination in the University of North Bengal, and her research areas cover a diverse range of academic fields including feminism, eco-criticism, Indian classical literature, nationalism, Northeast studies, and many other areas. A large number of significant articles, scholarly papers have been published in leading journals and newspapers of national and international repute all over the world. And for the last 2 decades, I would say, she has also been regularly delivering lectures in conferences, seminars, symposium, workshops all over the nation. So, yes, am I audible?
হ্যাঁ স্যার আমি স্মৃতি সাহা বলছি
Okay, just follow us. Just mute your microphone. Follow us.
হ্যালো স্যার আমি স্মৃতি সাহা বলছি শান্তিপুর কলেজ থেকে
Okay, you're welcome to the show. Okay. So,
আমার বাবার নামে বলছি স্যার আমার বাবার নামে হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ নাম্বার
okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just mute your microphone and follow us. Okay. Don't be worried about the issue. Let it be there. Well, and when we approached her, the first question that she asked me that whether it is going to be absolutely student-oriented workshop or it will be just yet another theoretically very what should I say overly intellectual academic activities where students are mostly neglected. But when I told her that it is absolutely meant for the students because so many workshops, seminars, webinars being organized where students' concern are not taken into consideration. And as I know personally, she's always very much concerned about the students' benefits. So I told her that yes, ma'am, it is absolutely for the students, and the entire workshop is aimed at benefiting them because they are in a very difficult situation, not being attended, not being taken care of by the faculty because of the what should I say, the adverse situation that we have been going through. So she was very enthusiastic about the issue that it is absolutely meant for the students because she is always very concerned about the students' benefits. Well, and but another point has to be told that she has been going through an absolute hell for the last 1 month because just a fortnight ago she lost her one of the most respected beloved figures of her family who was next to her father. He passed away. It was a great blow, psychological, mental blow to her. She was struggling to cope up with this loss. Then within a week it was found, most unfortunately, that she was diagnosed for COVID-19 positive. Just barely 15 days ago, or like that, when she was diagnosed with this most, what should I say, pathetic, pathetic condition. So, and when we came to know that this is something that has happened to her, we thought it might not be possible for her to deliver her scheduled lecture. But we are shocked to learn that she, being driven by her indomitable spirit, assured us that I will go ahead with the lecture. Still, she is physically so feeble, fragile, weak, but she didn't want to upset us. When she came to know that a large number of students joining this workshop from all across the nation, she told, okay, no problem. I may be weak physically, but I am very much, what should I say, determined to go ahead with this, workshop. So we are so deeply grateful to her because we would have been in trouble had she cancelled this lecture, or most importantly, we may have found another resource person but not a person of her stature, not a person of her, figure. So we once again so deeply and sincerely express our gratitude and sincerity for her decision of continuing with the fixture, and today she is among us. I feel so honored and delighted to introduce her to you all. The talk that she is going to deliver upon today is on Through the Looking Glass, a close reading. And she has maintained from the very beginning, since we have approached her, that Subrata is going to be exclusively for the students. It will be designed and delivered with the aim of benefiting the students. So I'm quite sure it is, as it has been mentioned, a closed reading. It is going to be a closely closed reading. And the students will have a very rich harvest out of her lecture. But I don't know how long she can continue, because she has been prescribed by the doctor a complete physical and mental rest. But at the cost of that, physical and mental rest, she rises up and she decides to go ahead with the lecture today with us. I don't know how to express my gratitude to her for her, such a generous and I would say, taxing, I would say, decision to be with us. Thank you, ma'am. Welcome to Dr. Songjukta Chatterjee.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly, ma'am.
Yes, I think that is the first question we ask whenever we are on webinar, because it's like speaking to myself, so it's very difficult. Well, thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. And I don't know if I really deserve that, but I made it a point. I'm getting a disturbance in the audio. Hello? Is my voice audible? I want the students to tell me, so that I'm checking the chat box also. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Because once we are in the flow of things will get like this. So thank you so much for inviting me, Subrata. And I express my heartfelt gratitude to the principal sir and to Anirban, whom I came to know thanks to this workshop. He's a wonderful person. He called me up and we just had a talk, a couple of days back. So I just want to thank Anirban also to be there. My dear students, I just want to tell you two things. First of all, the lecture that you are here for, that is Through the Looking Glass, which we will definitely go into. And the greater thing, that is the pandemic. That is what I felt, because I've been through it, and it's like a roller coaster kind of a thing. There are days when you feel down, there are days when you feel good, there are days when you really feel that now the end has come, and then there are days, the next morning you again feel a little better. But please don't ignore the slightest signs that you have. I think I survived because I could be treated very early in the disease. And I am also very thankful to the healthcare system that is being so, ridiculed everywhere of West Bengal. The way I have got myself treated at a government hospital. I stayed at home, but the doctors from the government hospital guided me through Corona, and I have overcome it. So thank God, and thanks to all my dear students who are here. I think it's due to your care and your desire that I got well. So let me now go into the lecture. And in this kind of a pandemic situation, in this afternoon when it's quite hot in certain parts of Bengal and of course all over India, I think it's a wonderful thing to think of something cool and refreshing like a nonsense text. Now, whenever we talk about nonsense literature, we always we think of this name, Louis Carroll, and we are always so enamored by the way he has dealt with this construction of this wonderful way of doing something and not meaning really to do it. Now, I think I am also speaking gibberish. So, Louis Carroll was not doing something very new, because already we had Edward Lear doing it in the 19th century as well. He was also doing nonsense literature. and I cannot restrict myself. I think nobody can restrict oneself, but speak of Shukumar Rai of our very own, literary, what should I say, literary dynasty, if I may say, the Ray family. So Shukumar Rai was also doing it in Bangla so well, and we have lots. And you just open your search engines, and you will get plenty of names of nonsense literature. So what is it that really demarcates nonsense literature from the other versions of nonsensical literature? Let me say like that. For example, the nursery rhymes, that's really some of the nursery rhymes, not all. Some have a narrative. Some nursery rhymes, they don't have narrative. For example, suppose I say Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. That has a narrative. But certain nursery rhymes don't have, like nursery, they don't have narratives. They don't have any stories to say. So those kind of nursery rhymes are nonsensical, where you understand the meanings of words, you understand the meanings of things, but you really don't understand anything at all. It just passes through you. Through the looking glass, one of the queen says once, it passes through me. So it passes through you. You listen to it, and yet you are not able to really understand it. But at the same time, you don't listen to nursery rhymes when you're my age or your age. You listen to nursery rhymes when you just learn to hear something that pleases you, to speak. So nonsensical literature, I don't know if we read it aloud. Definitely the poems sound wonderful, but if these novels and all, if you read them aloud, I was doing it. I was trying. I was experimenting with myself. I was reading aloud through the looking glass certain portions of it, especially the poems, and they definitely sound better. So nonsensical literature is something we don't like to touch. We don't like to read. We are okay with the poems. We can read a Jabberwocky, or we can read a Walrus and the Carpenter, or we can read the other poems that are there. There are lots of them. We can just read them. But when we have to read through the looking glass text, we really at your age, at the age of undergrad, we don't really feel like going through them, and we don't really feel like, after 1 or 2 pages, we don't like reading. So I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I told her that, do you like reading Alice in Wonderland? And she said, no, I read the Alice in Wonderland, I read in class 6. And I said, but Through the Looking Glass is wonderful. And she said, no, I'm not going to read that. I don't like reading it. I started reading it. I read 1 page. I don't like reading it. So loss of innocence, that's what I felt. But, if you really can concentrate on this text, if you really can take a journey of this text, which I'm going to take you through in this little time that we're together. So you will realize that, Louis Theroux was definitely a genius, and he was trying to see a lot of things. He was trying to mean a lot of things. He was experimenting with a lot of aspects that he very subtly distills into the text, and that he makes us, it's like, you're on a, let's say, on a conveyor belt, and you're moving through a lot of things. You are able to see a lot of things, but not really able to touch them or to feel them, so just sliding through it. So this movement, this is definitely there in Alice in Wonderland as well as Through the Looking Glass. So I felt that the first thing that I should take up when I discuss this way of dealing with nonsense literature that Theroux does, he uses words that are, that are very suggestive of a lot of movement. So I'm going to constantly refer to Alice in Wonderland because, Alice in Wonderland was written in 1865, and Through the Looking Glass came out in 1871. The entire name of the entire title is Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. So, as I was saying, so nonsense literature or literary nonsense actually came up in the 19th century, and when Paul took it up, he decided to try both We tried with the prose and the poetry. And in the prose, we definitely have a very simple way of storytelling, because she goes and Alice's age is 7 years 6 months. That's what she tells, and 7-year oldest is 7.5. So that age group, how they react. So that is there. Well, I am not. I really don't want to go into the details like what was Louis Carroll is a pseudonym. So his original name was Charles Ludwig Dodson, and he lived from 1832 to 1898. And his biography and all you can like search and find out. But what you are not interested in doing is going to most of you. I mean, some of you will definitely read it, but most of you will not feel like reading the particular text. So how about reading the text? Let's see. Through the Looking Glass is, it has 12 chapters. So each particular chapter has a wonderful way of dealing with certain characters that Alice comes across, perhaps in the text that she reads at school, or perhaps in the nursery rhymes that she has heard, or of the characters that she imagines, the fantastical beasts and creatures that she imagines to exist in that particular world. So while in Alice in Wonderland, Alice falls down, and that's a fall that is such a long fall, and then she finally reaches the Underland. So here, Alice doesn't fall down. Alice kind of, what should I say, floats. She floats her way to the world. But before that, let me just start with the reading part. So she is actually surrounded by her kittens, and there's a white kitten and a black kitten. And I quote, "One thing was certain, that the white kitten had nothing to do with it. It was the black kitten's fault entirely. For the white kitten had been having its face washed by the old cat for the last quarter of an hour, and bearing it pretty well considering. So you see that it couldn't have had any hand in the mischief." So she is just lazing around, she's just lazing around and watching the kitten, and she is having a way of dealing with, the kind of leisurely, the kind of slow, unwinding sort of a mood that she is in. And the name of her cat is Dina, or Dinah as you pronounce it. I like to pronounce it as Dina. Okay. So Dina washed her children's faces was this. Now this face washing thing is so human, if I may say, so human. The way she imagines that Dina is washing. So this constant, movement between realism and imagination, between reality and imagination, that is always there throughout. The beginning of Through the Looking Glass is like that, as if the mother cat is washing the faces of the kitten in such a way as the human mother cleans the children, or maybe the way her mother definitely cleaned her. Now this character Alice Liddell was one of the three daughters of Henry Liddell, who was the dean of Christ Church, where Carroll spent a lot of time. So he actually denied it. He said, "No, I have not modeled Alice on Alice Liddell, but there are ample evidence that suggests that maybe he had actually modeled Alice on Alice Liddell." Okay, so that's debatable. Also, some critics have taken out certain, negative, kind of reading of the way of he is dealing with children. He was a photographer. Carroll was a painter. He was a mathematician, and he was a lot more things. He was also a member of the Free Raphaelite, Brotherhood, if I may say. He was very close to Dante Gabriel Rossetti. So, Carroll had this wonderful way of pictographically describing things, and that comes out in his writing as well. So Carroll, the way he used to paint, children, okay, and that had led to some kind of 3 or 4 critics are there who have written that maybe his sexuality was something related to children. It's not something that I would definitely go into, not something that we would actually discuss. But the way he was obsessed with children, that somehow it there has been some readings on that. So I want to say that Alice, the central character, is a wonderful girl, and she is very polite, she is very caring, and she wants to help people, but she asks a lot of questions, which is also very natural for a 7-year-old to ask. And in this world that is, the mirror opposite of the world that we live in, because through the looking glass is definitely the mirror through which Alice has entered this world. So this world appears to be um, a world of complete imagination, where all kind of things take place that will never ever take place in this particular world. So this loneliness, the loneliness of a 7-year-old, may be read into the text, that actually forces her to imagine things around the things that she has. Like she has the kitten, you can see the kitten around her, and she imagines them to be a part of her journey there. Okay, so when she is projecting, she's trying to read into how the black kitten and the white kitten, how they are being dealt with by Dinah. She actually finds herself speaking to Dinah in a very, very normal way, as if she is speaking to a human being. She's saying, "Really, Dinah, ought to have taught you better manners. You ought, Dinah, you ought," she added, looking reproachfully at the old cat. Now, as we go through this workshop, this is a workshop that I have been told. This is definitely something that you do hands-on. Okay, so if you can download the PDF of this text, it is easily available. It is available on Kindle also. It will cost you 45 rupees only, or 50 rupees. I'm not sure, something like that. So if you can download it, then you can read along with me, and both of us can explore this text together. So she is speaking to the cat, and she loves speaking to animals, that we have seen in the previous text also, that is Alice in Wonderland, where in the underworld she meets all kinds of animals, the white rabbit, and all everyone. So how she deals with the caterpillar and all of those animals that she meets there. But in Through the Looking Glass, we hardly find her meeting an animal, except the animals have all metamorphosed, or they have completely changed into other beings. Like we shall do that when we come to the insect part. Okay. So Alice is telling Kitty, "Do you know what tomorrow is, Kitty? You'd have guessed if you'd be up in the window with me. Only dinner was making you tidy, so you couldn't. I was watching the boys getting in sticks for the bonfire, and it wants plenty of sticks, Kitty. Only it got so cold and it snowed, so they had to leave off." Here Alice won 2 or 3 turns of the worsted round the kitten's neck, and she's playing and she's going on with it. What is it for keeping your eyes open? No, we don't find something, important. She's just going on with a conversation, like a conversational way. And then after a while, she asks a question, "Kitty, can you play chess?" Now, don't smile, my dear. I'm asking it seriously. So she imagines that the kitty is actually smiling, and the kitty is, she's asking the kitty, because when we were playing just now, you watched it just as if you understood it. And when I said check, you purred. So this world that we can all create in his nonsense literature definitely has games, it has battles. Sometimes the games become battles, sometimes the battles become games. So when we have in Alice in Wonderland, we have the game of poker being played, and we have cards, the pack of cards moving around. In Through the Looking Glass, we have chess. We have chess, and we have lots of battles. I will come to that as we move along. So, chess is the central theme or the central structure on which Through the Looking Glass is organized, because the world that she enters is a world of a chessboard, where she herself becomes a pawn and she has to move around every time after she crosses a brook. So the structure of that ground is like a crisscross, like a chessboard, and all the crossings are made out of the little brooks that ran, and the green squares, they are the paddy fields. So this is what she sees after she enters that world. But how does she enter that world? Let's go to that part where she enters this world. I'm sorry, because I'm reading from a Kindle text, I cannot tell you the page numbers. So we really don't have page numbers. So if you can download the other versions, or if you have the hard copy with you, then you can go on. But I'm in the first chapter only. When I change chapters, I'm going to tell you. So in the first chapter, let's pretend that you're the Red Queen Kitty. Do you know? I think if you sat up and folded your arms, you'd look exactly like her. Now do try. There's a deer. And Alice got the Red Queen off the table and set it up before the kitten as a model for it to imitate. However, the thing didn't succeed principally. Alice said, because the kitten wouldn't fold its arms properly. So to punish it, she held it up to the looking glass that it might see how sulky it was. And if you're not good directly, she added, I'll put you through into Looking Glass house. How would you like that? She has always been curious about this looking glass or the mirror, and just like a child, she used to imagine what lies beyond. For example, if behind you can see the wall, then if I have a mirror, you have the wall there, but you don't know what lies behind that wall. And in the looking glass, Alice couldn't really think what goes beyond that mirror. So how I'll put you through into Looking Glass house. How would you like that? Now, if you'll only ask in Kitty and not talk so much, I'll tell you all my ideas about Looking Glass house. First, there's the room you can see through the glass. That's just the same as our drawing room, only the things go the other way. The same as the drawing room, only the things go the other way. The right becomes the left, as we all know. So, I can see all of it when I get upon a chair, all but the bit behind the fireplace. Oh, I do so wish I could see that bit. And what does she do? She gets up, okay? And she gets up. She was up on the chimney piece while she said this, though she hardly knew how she had got there. And suddenly, the glass was beginning to melt away, just like a bright silvery mist. And if I am boring you, my dear students, because you have seen so much of Harry Potter and so much of, technologically engineered fantastic things on the silver screen, on your OTT platforms, everywhere possible. You must have seen a lot of, these kind of text. But the thing that Louis Carroll is doing, he's doing it in the 19th century, and he was an inventor. An inventor, being an inventor, he used to think of a lot of things, and his inventions are there also. He had invented a lot of things also. So when this Alice steps up and goes through the looking glass, I constantly keep thinking of, a phantom passing through the waterfall into his cave, or, other such common things, from the world of comics or from the world of, cartoons. They come to my mind so much. So it is a very, very nicely structured thing that was up on the chimney. She actually likes a game. And what is the game? Let's pretend. That is the game she likes. Now, when we were kids, we used to also play that game. Let's pretend. Let's pretend that I'm this. Let's pretend I'm the governor of some province or something. But what is interesting is, she used to play that game with her sister, and when she told her sister, let's pretend, then her sister said, what do you want to pretend? No, let's be kings and queens. Now, how can you singularly the kings and queens, then she got a little aback. She took a little, she was surprised and she said, okay, fine. So you be the queen or king or something singular and I can be all the other things. Now that sets the tone for this particular novel. When Alice says that I will be just the other things. Let's pretend that I can be all the other things. It is not easy to be so many things at the same time. So whatever was going on in her head, that comes to in this semi-dream or kind of hallucinating kind of presence that she encounters and that she writes down. That she doesn't write down. I mean, that is being described. That she goes through. That she experiences. So, and she's saying that so that we can go right, turning into a sort of mist now. I declare, it will be easy enough to get through. She was up on the chimney piece and I read that part. In another moment, Alice was through the glass and had jumped lightly down into the looking glass room. The very first thing she did was to look whether there was a fire in the fireplace, and she was quite pleased to find that there was a real one, blazing away as brightly as the one she left behind. So I shall be as warm here as I was in the old room, warmer in fact, because there will be no one here to scold me away from the fire. In real life, she was scolded away from the fire by somebody, I don't know, whoever, maybe her governess or her mother or someone. But she out here she says that no one can get hold of me out here because I am inside the looking glass and I am in a different world now. From the world that I live in, I have come into a different world. Oh, what fun it will be when they see me through the glass in here and can't get at me. I have also, as a child, I have also thought, you can see so many things in the glass, but you can't really touch them. So it is something like you are present and absent at the same time. So it is a very, very philosophically, interesting question of being and on being at the same time. That's what I felt. So she began looking about and noticed that what could be seen from the old room was quite common and uninteresting. Okay, she was in her own room, but she was on the other side of the mirror. And then she encounters the red queen and the red king. Okay, and there the white king and the white queen sitting on the edge of the shovel. So she starts meeting the characters of chess. The two sets of kings and queens that we have on the chessboard, the white brigade and the red or the black, as you say, the red brigade that we find when she's talking about that. Okay. So here are the red king and the red queen, and there are the white king and the white queen sitting on the edge of the shovel. And here are two couples walking arm in arm. So you can see all kind of weird things happening, and logic goes for a toss. So we don't have any kind of logical. Just a second. I'm wonderfully, technically bad. So just let me check my. Okay. So what we let me just. Thank you. Sorry for this disturbance. These are the glitches that happen when I'm using so many gadgets here, and we are not initiated to use so many, but you are the privileged generation. So here are the red king and the red queen, and there are the white king and the white queen sitting on the edge of the shovel, and here are two couples walking arm in arm. I don't think they can hear me, and I'm nearly sure they can't see me. So you expect castles to hear you and to see you, because this is the world where anything can happen. This is the limitless world, the world of the mind. And that world, I feel somehow as if I were invisible. So Alice primarily feels that as if she is invisible. And she encounters the white king and the white queen first, and she saves them from that fireplace, I think they're at. So she tries to save them, and she does it. And she puts them on the table where the king and the queen, both of them are very happy with this sudden change of pace. But the white king has a habit. What is the habit? The habit is writing down the memorandum. So he says that in case I forget, let me write down the memorandum. So he writes memorandum for everything under the sun. Okay. Now, as they're talking about it, I'm sorry, as they're just sitting there, Alice decides that I should see the garden far better if I could get to the top of the hill. So she decides to go to the top of a particular hill. Okay. But how will she go to the top of the hill? She sees a path, a garden path, and she decides to walk that garden path and to go to the hill. But no matter how she tries to walk, the garden path goes circularly and she comes back to the place that she started. Then she goes, again she starts walking, again the house seems to come and stop the way. So she cannot understand that how is she to actually negotiate this journey, this displacement from one particular place to another. So what is journey? Carol is playing with this concept of travel. How do you really travel? When you travel, when you say that I'm going to a particular destination, so when you try to go to the from point A to point B, then you should be physically displaced. And how do you displace yourself? You walk, you move, you run, you do something to shift your place. But what if you could not shift your place? She was trying, but the path was coming back. She was always coming back to the house, do what she would. Indeed, once when she turned the corner rather more quickly than usual, she ran against it before she could stop herself. It's no use talking about it. I'm not going in again. I know I should have to get through the looking glass again, back into the old room. There'd be an end of all my adventures. So resolutely turning her back upon the house, she set out once more down the path, determined to keep straight on till she got to the hill. For a few minutes, all went well, and she was just saying, I really shall do it this time, when the path gave a sudden twist and shook itself. I'm so sorry, but I have, I also could not really escape the influence of Harry Potter movies and Harry Potter books, because as I told you before also, a couple of minutes before, that this movement of stairs that we see there, I feel that there is so much in it. But it is what is interesting is, no matter whatever she did, the path gave a sudden twist and shook itself. And next moment, she's back to that house. So, oh, it's too bad. I never saw a house for getting in the way. Never. However, there was the hill in full sight. So, she goes and there she finds a big tiger lily. And she tells the tiger lily, oh, tiger lily, I wish you could talk. And tiger lily said, we can talk. When there's anybody talking to us, worth talking to. We can talk, said the tiger lily, when there's anybody worth talking to. Alice was so astonished that she could not speak for a minute. And at length, as the tiger lily only went on waving about, can all flowers talk? As well as you can, and a great deal louder, the tiger lily said. It isn't manners for us to begin, and I really was wondering when you would speak. Now, through the looking glass, conversation is very different. Conversation begins abruptly, ends abruptly. Sentences begin and do not end. Sentences are very abrupt. Words are supposed to have feelings. Verbs can be angry. I think Humpty Dumpty, if I'm not mistaken, says that verbs are angry. Like language itself becomes very alive. And language is not subservient to meaning. So meaning keeps slipping out. And when we do the poem Jabberwocky in a couple of minutes, we'll get to that idea, how become and yet stays very interesting. Nonsense literature really plays with each and every word in such a way that, words, they just escape your hand, like sand escapes, like grains of sand through your. You can understand it, but you cannot relate it. You cannot place it. You cannot situate it. You cannot contextualize it. You cannot have any logic to the use of that particular word. So So words are there only as words, okay, and they exist on their own. They just float in the text. So Alice tells the tiger lily that uh, you know, and the conversation between the tiger lily and the rose, where she is being criticized. This is also a technique that is constantly employed throughout his two books, where Alice is ridiculed, Alice is humiliated, Alice has to face the brunt of other people's prejudice. So it's constantly throughout both the texts in Alice in Wonderland and in Through a Looking Glass. I find this, two people talking, and the third one is Alice, and Alice is being forced to join the conversation, and then she is completely perplexed. She's completely puzzled. She doesn't know what to speak, because whatever she speaks, that becomes inappropriate. That becomes unsuitable. That is not taken to be civil. That is not. That does not really suit the the texture of what that particular society that she encounters. In each and every chapter of the text, she encounters a different society, a different social order that she is not able to, kind of understand. She tries her level best to understand. She's saying that she wants to have a conversation. She wants to know how she can go to the top of the hill. But the tiger lily and the rose, both of them, the tiger lily is a soft, is kind of very soft towards her, but rose is not. So Alice says, how is it you can all talk so nicely, hoping that it would get into a better temper by a compliment? I have been in gardens before, but none of the flowers could talk. So Tiger Lily says that because the ground is hard, so they talk. And if the ground was softer, if the bed was softer, flower bed was softer, then they would have been all asleep. Excuse me. This sounded a very good reason, and Alice was quite pleased to know it. I never thought of that before. It's my opinion that you never think at all, the rose said in a rather severe tone. I think maybe Alice, the character that Carol constructed, maybe in school and all, she must have come across these kind of strict teachers, or even at home, we get certain aunts or even your parents who are like judgmental and who kind of say that, oh, you never think at all, oh, you never think at all. So that resonates in the text, where Alice has to hear this in her dream also, that, oh, you never think at all. Okay, hold your tongue, cried the tiger lily, as if you ever saw anybody. Okay, I'm sorry. This is the tiger lily telling the other flowers. Tiger lily is the dominant flower, maybe because tiger lily, so she dominates. I'm sorry. Hold your tongue, cried the tiger lily. It's not gendered, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's not gendered, so there is no he or she to it. But I'm still here. So, is she like me? They tell her that there is another girl, another female actually, who's roaming in that garden. So who is that? That is the queen. Okay, the real queen, the red queen that comes. And then the red queen tells her that, where do you come from? And where are you going? Very simple question. Where do you come from? And where are you going? Alice attended to all these directions and explained that, I don't know what do you mean by your way? The queen said, all the ways about here belong to me. But why do you come here at all? Alice said that I'm going my way. Where do you come from? Where do you want to go? I'm going my way. I want to go there. But all the ways belong to me. So the play with the words start here. The word play takes us through this entire episode in such a fantastic manner. So the queen is very dominating. All the queens are very dominating. And later Alice becomes a queen in one chapter. She too becomes very dominating for a while. But she's more dominated by the two queens, and the story ends after she becomes the queen. So here, it's time for you to answer now. Open your mouth a little wider when you speak, and always say, Your Majesty. Alice answers, I only wanted to see if the garden was like your majesty. That's right, said the queen, patting her on the head, which Alice didn't like at all, though when you say garden, I've seen gardens compared with which this would be a wilderness. Alice didn't dare to argue the point. So whatever Alice said, I've seen gardens. So the queen said, no, I've seen something that is better than this. That is beyond this. So the Red Queen shook her head. You may call it nonsense if you like, but I've heard nonsense compared with which that would be sensible as a dictionary. So that this text is a nonsensical text is repeated everywhere, because much later in the text also, Alice thinks that, okay, whatever is happening around me is absolute nonsense, and this constant reminder that you are actually reading a nonsense text, so don't try to find any sense in it, is a kind of telling that there is a sense hidden somewhere, there is a logic hidden somewhere that is not really within the grasp of the reader or the person who listens, maybe because the way we have perceived our perception of a certain kind of an idea is differently placed in this world that exists beyond through the looking glass, that exists beyond the looking glass. If I say that, means the world that is not accessible, only to be watched, only to be seen, not to be felt. So for some minutes, Alice curtsied again, and she was afraid that the queen found that she was a little offended. For some minutes, Alice stood without speaking, looking out in all directions over the country, and a most curious country it was. This is the description that I want you to follow. There were a number of tiny little brooks running straight across it from side to side, and the ground between was divided up into squares by a number of little green hedges that reached from brook to brook. I declare, it's marked out just like a large chessboard, Alice said at last. There ought to be some men moving about somewhere. And so there are, she added in a tone of delight, and she realized that a great game of chess was going on. This can be a pun on the world order. A great game of chess, moving between one paddy field to another paddy field, one source of livelihood to another source of livelihood, dancing, jumping, moving around at the instruction of some queen or some king who is just simply playing a game. So I find irony, I find a lot of traverse reflections on the world order that of the 19th century that was witnessed by him. But I want you to find out. I want you to do the history part. I want you to go home, after my lecture, to go and search more about this particular text that exists in a corner of the syllabus somewhere, but we don't really, most of my students think that, we just read a summary of it, ma'am, or I don't feel like reading it, ma'am. Just read it. It's a wonderful time pass. And in this lockdown time, it will give you some happy days. 2 days, 1 day, 2 days. 2 days enough to read this particular novel. So Alice never could quite make out, in thinking it over afterwards, how it was that they began. All she remembers is that they were running hand in hand. So the queen suddenly starts running at the top of the hill. And they run hand in hand. And they run fast, and very fast, and faster, and fastest. And yet they go nowhere. So absurdism, a kind of absurd condition when you run, but you go nowhere. Where you began, there you end. This circular motion, not linear motion, this goes on, because it begins on a kind of a circular motion, because the kitty is running after her own tail right at the beginning. If you read it, you'll find the kitty was running after her own tail, and it ends with the white queen running after her own shawl, and then she comes back. I'm talking the entire novel, and the white queen running after her own shawl, and then the image dissipates, and the dream goes away, and she sees that her kitten is going around like that after its own tail. So the most curious part of the thing was that the trees and the other things around them never changed their places at all. However fast they went, they never seemed to pass anything. I wonder if all the things move along with us, thought poor, puzzled Alice. And the Queen seemed to guess her thought, for she cried, "Faster, don't try to talk." Not that Alice had any idea of doing that. She felt as if she would never be able to talk again. She was getting so much out of breath. And still the Queen cried, "Faster, faster. Are we nearly there?" Alice managed to pant out at last. "Nearly there," the Queen repeated. "Why, we passed in 10 minutes ago. Faster." And they ran on for a long time in silence, with the wind whistling in Alice's ears. No, I will not be reading the entire book, which is impossible, and of course you'll be bored to death. But this idea of a physical displacement that I had mentioned already, that still continues. Okay, so how will they, Alice tells the Queen, then how fast should we go so that we can go somewhere? So the Queen says that you have to run faster. So if you're running, and if you're very ran a lot of time, you have to run fast. Then Alice says, "I'm thirsty." As you can see, I'm so thirsty. I have to keep this part wet. It's a post-corona phenomenon. Can't help it. So Alice is thirsty, and the Queen, hello, yeah, Alice is thirsty, and the Queen, gives her biscuit. Please tell me if I go off here, okay? Because it's like speaking to the mirror, to the looking glass myself. Somebody please tell me if suddenly you find that you are not able to hear me or something. Okay. So Alice says that I'm very thirsty. I'm so hot and thirsty. And the Queen said, "I know what you'd like." The Queen said good-naturedly, taking out a little box from her pocket, "Have a biscuit." So in this topsy-turvy world, in a world where everything is the opposite of what happens in this real world, Alice has to eat a biscuit when she is thirsty. So when she is somehow she swallows one biscuit, chews and swallows, then she's offered another biscuit. So in this world, when people are thirsty, they don't drink, they eat. So she explains the game to Alice. At the 2-yard peg, she faced down and said, "A pawn goes 2 squares in its first move." So Alice is a pawn now. And there are changes, very rapid changes. There are very rapid changes, and these changes happen, in the fraction of a second, and the scene changes. Where she is, it changes. So it's very much something that happens in dreams, actually. A pawn goes 2 squares in its first move, So you'll go very quickly through the third square. By railway, I should think. And you'll find yourself in the fourth square in no time. And you'll find yourself in the, that square belongs to Tweedledum and Tweedledee. The fifth is mostly water. The sixth belongs to Humpty Dumpty. But you make no remark. I didn't know I had to make one. Just then, Alice faltered out. Because Alice has been chided for speaking out of a turn. And she is chided throughout both the texts for speaking out of turn, which is also a very novel way of disciplining children. So she doesn't know when to speak and when not to speak. "You should have said, 'It's extremely kind of you to tell me this.' However, we'll suppose it said, 'The 7th square is all forest. However, one of the knights will show you the way, and in the 8th square, we shall be queens together. And it's all feasting and fun.'" Alice got up, curtsied, and sat down again. At the next peg, the Queen turned again, and this time she said, "Speak in French when you can't think of the English for a thing. Turn out your toes as you walk, and remember who you are." She did not wait for Alice to curtsy this time, and she went away. That is the beginning of the novel. I read the entire chapter with you, and here we got an idea about how the entire story starts. She's sitting and playing with the kittens. Suddenly she sees the glass. She's inside the glass. She's inside this world. She goes into a garden where flowers can talk, and where she meets the Red Queen. And with the Red Queen, she goes to the top of the hill. But it's very difficult for her to go to the top of the hill previous before she meets the queen, because the paths were all winding up, the paths were moving and all that. But I think because Carroll was a mathematician, he was obsessed with the idea of numbers. So we have this 8 square, if you have seen a chessboard, of course you have seen a chessboard, something like something that is hanging behind me also somewhat resembles a chessboard. So an egg, but a chessboard, how you move, there are moves of the chess. A pawn goes 2 squares, an elephant goes this much, or the queen goes this much and all that. So 3, 4, 5 numbers throughout the text. You get lots of numbers. But what interested me was the use of the number 2. There's always a pair. So whether it is they're always pairs, and that the chessboard is actually again a pair, and also if you draw a line across the chessboard, one side is the opposite of the other side, more or less. Not exactly, if you know chess, of course not, but then the characters are definitely there, because whatever you have on the red side, you definitely have on the white side. So the duality is throughout. It is there, the existence of this reality versus dream, logic versus illogic, sense versus nonsense, and everything, everything, happiness, sadness, everything, all kind of things are there. So let's see what the first the chapter. We are now in chapter 3. I'm sorry, just a minute. This is the problem with digital text. Yes, looking glass insect. Okay. So she goes into of course, the first thing to do was to move. And when she moved, she was into this particular thing. And there she meets all kind of insects. She knows these insects. Suppose we know a bee, but what if the bee was the size of an elephant? Or what if, I missed a particular part, which I should say. She jumped and she went into a railway carriage. And in the railway carriage, she comes across all kinds of people who think in unison. Okay. They don't speak in unison, they think in unison. And they advise her that why have you not bought a ticket? There is your ticket. So, that train can jump over certain places. And the ticket checker comes and she is not able to, produce a ticket. So the voices in that carriage, they say, what a number of people are there in the carriage, thought Alice. Saying, the number of people are saying, she must go by force as she's got a head on her. She must be sent as a message by the telegraph. She must draw the train herself the rest of the way, and so on. And there was a gentleman who was dressed in white paper, leaning forward, and he leaned forward and whispered in her ear, never mind what they all say, my dear, but take a return ticket every time the train stops. So Alice said, I don't belong to this railway journey at all. I was in a wood. I wish I could get back there. There was a little voice close to her ear. Later on, she comes to see that little voice is not little, it's quite big. That's a gnat, an insect. So that insect is speaking in her ear and saying that you might make a joke on that, something about you would if you could and all that. So the little boy says it was very unhappy and all that, and she somehow moves on from the railway carriage to the next adventure, and that adventure is of insects, the looking glass insect. Now the normal insects and the looking glass insects, they are the same, except that they are very semantic. They're very kind of, they mean what they are. For example, I'll tell you, we have heard of horseflies. So what is a rocking horsefly? So the gnat says, halfway up that bush, you'll see a rocking horsefly. If you look, it's made entirely of wood and gets about by swinging itself from branch to branch. So she says, is there a dragonfly? Yeah, there's a snapdragonfly, snapdragonfly. So his body is made of plum pudding, his wings of holly leaves, and his head is a raisin burning in brandy. So all kind of exotic decorations and food that are normally served around Christmas. So there is a very subtle kind of reference to this Christmas, decorations like the holly leaves and the Christmas. The feast at the end of the story is so like a Christmas feast where you have to carve a leg and there's pudding and all those things. But I won't jump. Let's come back to the portion that I'm doing. That is the Alice is meeting up with the insect. So she says that then there is the butterfly. Okay, and the description of the butterfly, how does the butterfly look? Well, the butterfly has got bread. You may observe a bread and butterfly. So there is no butterfly in this world. There are only bread and butterflies. Its wings are thin slices of bread and butter. Its body is a crust, and its head is a lump of sugar. Food analogies are there all through. So there's the dragonfly lives in the Christmas box. And the bread and butterfly lives on what? Lives on wheat seeds with cream in it. A new difficulty came into Alice's head. Supposing it couldn't find any, then it would die, of course. But that must happen very often. It always happens. So the idea of death, the idea of stop, that is there in a very funny way in the first book, where the queen is always shouting off with his head, off with her head in Alice in Wonderland. And whenever we discuss this text through the looking glass, it is always wise, it is always good to discuss it along with Alice in Wonderland, because this is a sequel to that text. So when we discuss it in a kind of you constantly refer to that text, then it is a better one. And textual study is something that should be a must in case of nonsense literature, because unless you read the words firsthand, you really don't get the spice of it. Okay, or you really don't not get the spice of it, let's say. So Alice is a bit concerned, and Alice is wondering when the gnat says that, okay, so these kind of insects are there, the looking glass insects are very different, and Nat introduces them to that. So then they enter a wood. Now the wood is very interesting, where you forget your name. Okay, this must be the wood where things have no name. So the importance of names is very much dealt with throughout the text. We find that names are very important. Either you live up to your name, or you behave like your name, or you really don't have a name, or maybe you have a name, you're called something else, you're known as something else. There's a song called Haddock song, where later on that you have you are something, you are named something, you are known as something, you are called something, and multiple other ways of being introduced. Okay, so she is actually very shocked, because she can't remember her name, she can't remember who she is. Their things have no name. This wood, their things have no name. I wonder what will become of my name when I go in. I shouldn't like to lose it at all, because they'd have to give me another, and it would be most certain to be an ugly one. But then the fun would be trying to find the creature that had got my old name. So as if name is something that you can take off, lose somewhere, get it back, and it can be used by somebody else. So this is also a very subtle, ironical kind of a referencing to this idea of nomenclature, because she says that just like the advertisements, when people lose dogs, answers to the name of quote unquote, answers to the name of Dash had on a brass collar. Just fancy calling everything you met Alice. Till one of them answered, only they wouldn't answer at all, as if they were wise. She was rambling on this way when she reached the wood. It looked very cool and shady. Well, at any rate, it's a comfort after being so hot to get into what? Because she couldn't even say that she was into a forest. Okay, so I mean to get under this. So she's under a tree, and she cannot say that it is a tree because she has forgotten everything. So finally, when she comes out of it, she finds a signpost, and it is written to Tweedledom's house. And again, through the house of Tweedledee, and there is only one arrow. So it's not like two arrows going to two houses, so one house. So she understands that they must be there, and chapter 4 starts with Tweedledum and Tweedledee. This is, the beginning of her real adventure, actually, because Tweedle was written on the back of the collars of these two men. They were standing under a tree, each with an arm around the other's neck, and Alice knew which in a moment, because one of them had Dum embroidered on his collar, and the other one had D. So Tweedledum and Tweedledee. They look similar. Carol used to paint, he used to draw, he used to sketch how the characters that he is describing are. Okay, so it is there. If you think we are Oxford, you have to know. So they have a kind of, they speak differently, and except that it's written on their collar, Dum and D, you would not be able to differentiate between them. And either Tweedledum says that they have their ways of speaking. I'm telling you. Just a minute. Know-how. Tweedledum says know-how. N-O-H-O-W. Every sentence has this word know-how. And Tweedledee says contrary-wise. So if one says this, the other has to say something opposite. So again, that dualism, that thing, that twin, that two, that thing goes on and on. So Tweedledum and Tweedledee, when they say something, they have to speak about something. So I'm just giving an example. Like she could hardly help saying them out loud. Alice has the words of an old song ringing in her ears, and throughout this particular text, you have so many poems and so many songs. Okay, Tweedledum and Tweedledee agreed to have a battle, for Tweedledum and Tweedledee had spoiled his nice new rattle. I underline the word nice new rattle. Just then flew down a monstrous crow as black as a sour barrel, which frightened both the heroes so they quite forgot their quarrel. Now this is the poem that comes to her mind. It's a rhyme, a nursery rhyme that comes to her mind, and this is what she actually goes through. Tweedledum and Tweedledee actually have a battle, and Tweedledum, just a minute, Tweedledum and Tweedledee, they both decide to dance along with Alice, and after they have danced, then the introduction should happen. So Alice is surprised, because in novel world, first you get introduced to people and then you decide whether you're going to dance with them or not. But in this world, she dances first and then gets introduced. So they ask her, do you like poetry? And they recite. I'm not going to recite because it will eat up all my time. The Walrus and the Carpenter. It's a poem that is taught at the school level in various institutions. It's a very good nonsense poem, The Walrus and the Carpenter. It's a big poem. It's I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, very long, 10, 12 stanzas maybe. So that particular poem is there, where it's a poem about a walrus and a carpenter eating up oysters and cheating the oysters, actually taking them for a walk and then eating up the oysters. So it also speaks of deception. Now it's very interesting how in this world that we Carol creates how these negative things are present, like bullying, like deception, like battles and wars and all kind of possessing. This is my way, this is yours. That idea of possessing, that idea of segregation, that idea of maybe I know how to go about this and you don't know how to go about this. This domination. All these things are present in that world, and Alice's journey is not only through people, not only through characters. Her journey is also through these kind of emotions, and her journey is through these, very adult, things that we don't really want children to have these kind of experiences. But children like Alice, they go through these experiences very subtly, as if through the looking glass, as if, not in the first person, but definitely they are aware of these emotions. Okay. Well, they are both very unpleasant characters. That is what Alice concludes after she actually hears hears the entire poem of Tweedledee and the Walrus and the Carpenter. And I'm not going into more details there, but we have to remember that they have a fight and there is a battle, and there are lots of battles in this particular text. So the first battle that she encounters is between Tweedledum and Tweedledee. The second battle will be between the lion and the unicorn, and the third battle is between the white knight and the red knight. So the battles will continue, and always the battles are between two single characters for something. Okay. Now Tweedledum and Tweedledee, they battle for a nice new rattle. But what Alice notices there is an old rattle. But old is new because the world is inverted. It's not subverted. So the rattle that they're fighting for is a broken rattle. And Alice says, oh, you're fighting for a broken rattle? But they're saying, no, it's a nice new rattle. So just as when you are thirsty, you have to eat. So nice new is actually old and broken in this world. So I'm now I have to hurry up. I will just go to the next chapter, and the next chapter is titled Wool and Water. Okay. What does she come across out here? She comes across the White Queen, the chess characters, if you remember, the White Queen. And the White Queen's shawl keeps coming off. So she tries to pin up the shawl on the White Queen. Alice is a very helpful girl. She cares for all of them. And as Alice tries to put the shawl on her, put the pins on her, she says that, wait, the idea of dress. Okay, I have a quotation there. Okay, now Alice puts up the pins very well, and she says that I am addressing you. So I'm spelling it out. It's like this. Addressing. Just a second. I don't know if my camera is strong enough. It's like this. Can you see? Addressing. So when you say addressing, it's also addressing. When you address someone. So she was hyphenated dressing the queen. Okay. So it's like that I am addressing. Just a second. I'll pick a pen so that I'm able to, it will be visible to you what I write. It's hands-on. It should be hands-on. So addressing, this is addressing, and what the thing was happening is the pun. The idea of punning on words. It was also a favorite game that Carol played. So it's addressing, addressing, and addressing. That is the way the game actually begins. Okay. So well, yes, if you call that, am I addressing the White Queen? So Alice is very polite, and Alice says, am I addressing the White Queen? And the Queen says, well, yes, if you call that addressing, it isn't my notion of a thing at all. And then the White Queen decides to keep her as a maid. Okay. And what will be the price? Well, what will be the salary, or what should be the payment of the maid? So the Queen says, I'm sure I'll take you with pleasure, 2 pence a week and jam every other day. Alice couldn't help laughing as she said, I don't want you to hire me, and I don't care for jam. Well, I don't want any today at any rate. The Queen said, no, you couldn't have it if you did want it. The Queen said, the rule is jam tomorrow and jam yesterday, but never jam today. So Alice objected. It must come sometimes to jam today. No, it can't. It's jam every other day. Today isn't other day, I don't understand you, said Alice. It's dreadfully confusing. That's the effect of living backwards, the Queen said kindly. it always makes one a little giddy at first. So living backwards, that's the effect of living backwards, the queen says. So, then later on, the queen goes on to say that, about memory. Now, can we have a memory of something we have never experienced? And we have the idea of deja vu that we get to know in a lot of science fiction movies, and also in a lot of philosophical and psychological and maybe quantum physics also. So you have that idea of deja vu, but deja vu is not something that could be understood in a better way than this queen. When this queen is explaining, the queen is saying that, you know, uh, having memory of things that has not yet happened means she had to prick her finger on a particular pin and she could not avoid it. So she starts crying first, then her finger gets pricked by the pin. So, no, first the blood comes out, she cries, and then her finger gets pricked by the pin. So, when the finger gets pricked by the pin, she does not react because she has already reacted. So, time moves in opposite direction. It's almost like the way we count BC years. So, the time moves in the opposite direction. Her screams were so exactly like the whistles of a steam engine, Alice thought. So, Alice is this recurring reference to the railways, the railways coming out in the century, and how these particular references actually refer to the various inventions. Sir was himself an inventor, and he was very interested in all kinds of inventions. So that thing is there. So I'll just like to quote the part where they talk about memory. Just a second. Yes. Yes. She says that it is, only I can never remember the rule. You must be very happy living in this wood and being glad whenever you like. Oh, it is very, very lonely here. Then she asks, how old are you? The queen says, I'm just 101, 5 months and a day. I can't believe that, can't you? Try again. Draw a long breath and shut your eyes. There's no use. One cannot believe an impossible thing. Oh yes, you can believe. You can believe anything. And then she goes into another, she passes another stage, another square, because she's a fawn. And then she meets a sheep, and she goes into a shop. Then the sheep and the shop suddenly become a river, and again back to the shop, and she buys an egg out there. Now this egg, when she buys, the sheep says, go to the shelf and get the egg. And she goes to the shelf, and the egg is actually Humpty Dumpty. So she meets Humpty Dumpty, the character, our favorite character from the nursery rhyme, and how Humpty Dumpty is a very interesting character, and how Alice very politely tells him, I said you look like an egg, sir, and some eggs are very pretty. So we are now in chapter 6, Humpty Dumpty, and Alice meets Humpty Dumpty and tells him that Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, and that poem, I'm not going through the poem, and says that my name is Alice, but Humpty Dumpty interferes. It's a stupid enough name. What does it mean? Alice asks doubtfully, must the name mean something? Of course means. Of course it must, Humpty Dumpty said with a short laugh. My name means the shape I am, and a good handsome shape it is too. With a name like yours, you might be any shape almost. Okay, now I think I have somewhere, I have missed a particular part about the Jabberwocky poem. Okay, so I will just go back to the Jabberwocky poem, because Humpty Dumpty is going to explain the Jabberwocky poem. So just give me a few minutes. I'll be able to get the poem back. Yes, I got the poem, the Jabberwocky poem. Now let me read the Jabberwocky poem, because I will come back to Humpty Dumpty chapter, and then I will tell you how Humpty Dumpty interprets that poem. Now, when Alice had entered that house, that looking glass house, she finds a particular book, and on the book it is written like this. Let me tell you. Let me show you my text. I don't know if you have your text with you, but this is the way it is written. Can you see? Yes. So the mirror image. It is not something my camera is doing. It is written like this. So it is the mirror image, and this is something that she could not read. So then she says, oh, it is a looking glass book. And of course, if I hold it up to a glass, the words will all go the right way. And these are the literary devices that nonsensical literature can have. It can have pictures of things, and it can have the structural way, how written from right hand side to the other side, the mirror image. And Carroll was experimenting. Carroll was using all kind of ideas that he had. Now this poem, this exact poem, Jabberwocky, I will read this poem, and this is one of the most difficult and funny at the same time, because when we read it, it's something we understand, but the moment I stop reading, you understand nothing. Jabberwocky is supposed to be some kind of a monster, and as we tell children, James Joyce also does it, just at the beginning of one of his witch texts. You remember? So how it was a moo cow, and how the gibberish kind of language that children speak in. It's not something negative. It's just that you're not able to arrive at a word. Maybe you're not able to pronounce that word correctly. Carroll was a stammerer in real life. He could not really speak correctly. So was it something that was happening? It is said that he also had some kind of a disease in which he saw things, something goes wrong inside your brain, and you see things as either too large or too small. So this experimenting with size that is there in his work. So maybe this also actually comes from there. So in Jabberwocky, what happens? It is about some monster. So if you're not able to correctly pronounce, or if you intentionally pronounce words in such a beautiful way that there's this lisp in your speech, then it appears like that. 'Twas brillig, and the slimy toe did gyre and gimble in the web. All mincy were the borough grove, and the mome wrought out grave. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the jujube bird, and shun the frumious bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Just a minute. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame, and the Jabberwock with eyes of flame. Just a minute. Yes. Where am I? Came whistling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and true. The vorpal blade in sneaker snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O flapjewel's day, Kaloo Kalay, he chortles in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the sleary toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mincy were the borough groves, and the mome rat out grave. It seems very pretty, she said, when she had finished it, but it's rather hard to understand. Somehow, it seems to fill my head with ideas, only I don't know exactly what they are. However, somebody killed something, that's clear at any rate. So this poem, Jabberwocky, is actually, Carroll makes use of a number of poetic techniques out here. He makes use of assonance, he makes use of, a lot of alliteration is there, and a lot of other poetic enjambment is there, finishing lines in the middle, and then coming up suddenly with it, beginning a line, and then ending it, going on without ending it. So he also uses a lot of, use of this peculiar garbled kind of a language. It was brillig, and the sleepy toves, the gyre and gimble in the wave. All mincy were the borough grove, and the mome rats out grave. So when you read it entirely, it doesn't make any sense. Absolutely no sense, except that Jabberwocky is a monster, and the father tells the son to go and kill the monster. So when the son goes to kill the monster, he is not able, he's tired. When he is resting, the monster comes, he slays the monster, takes the head of the Jabberwocky to his father, but 2 more monsters are there. The father is very happy. The father says something like, cheers, or I'm very happy, like Kaloo Kalay, that father says. And the son takes the trophy to the father. the head of the monster, but of course, two more monsters, that's Bandersnatch and Jub Jub Bird. So they are somewhere again, hiding somewhere. So, these kind of poems we actually tell children so that they can fall asleep at night. So maybe she was also told these kind of, meaningless names that we use to scare children off to sleep, like Rip Van Winkle or Wee Willie Winky. I'm sorry, not Rip Van Winkle, Wee Willie Winky, the poem that, the rhyme that we tell children. Wee Willie Winky walks over the town, something like that. This Jabberwocky. Jabberwocky is one of the best nonsense poems in the history of English literature because it does not make any sense except that there is somebody killed something, as Alice says, somebody killed something. Now, there are a lot of words there. Okay, just there are a lot of words there, and these words are actually explained by Humpty. Humpty Dumpty. When she meets Humpty Dumpty, Humpty Dumpty actually explains the poem to her. Okay. Yes, just a minute. Humpty Dumpty also has a wonderful concept of unbirthday present, but I will go into it later on. So Humpty Dumpty says that, okay, I know the word. So Alice says, okay, what is the meaning of brillig? Because the poem begins with "'twas brillig." So Humpty Dumpty interrupted and says, yes, of course I know. Brillig means 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you actually have a name for a time. We have a midday and we have a morning and we have an afternoon, but we really don't have a name for a 3 p.m. in the afternoon or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So 4 o'clock in the afternoon is called brillig according to Humpty Dumpty. There is no logic behind it. The time when you begin broiling things for dinner. So because you broil and brillig, so that bra sound is there. So broiling things for dinner. So that is why 4 o'clock is the brillig. Okay, so Alice says, what is slithy? Slithy means lid and slimy. Lid is the same as active. You see, it's like a portmanteau word. There are two meanings packed up into one word. I see it. What are toves? Well, toves are something like badgers. Toves are doves, as you want to pronounce. There's something like lizards, and there's something like corkscrew. Now, you can really not find anything similar between a badger, a lizard, and a corkscrew in real life. But in this world of the looking glass, a badger, a lizard, and a corkscrew are brought on the same plane. So they must be very curious looking creatures. Yes, they are, and they live on trees. And what is gyre and gimble? Gyre is to go round and round like a gyroscope. This is the correct meaning. Okay, there is sense there. That is not nonsense. To gimble is to make holes like a gimlet. And the warp is the grass plot round the sundial. I suppose, yes, it is called warp, because it goes a long way before it and a long way behind it. Alice added, and a long way beyond it on each side. So it also goes to show how children actually start sewing the line of conversation. Okay. And what is a mome rat? Rat is a sort of green pig. Mome, I'm not certain. I think it's short for from home. And what is outgrabe? Outgrabbing is something between bellowing and whistling with a kind of sneeze in the middle. So it is like you hardly can keep yourself from laughing, or the descriptions are hilarious and meaningless totally. Okay, so this is very difficult to write something that will mean nothing. Okay, so this idea of no meaning, no body, nothing, not being able to do things, that concept of the negative, the nothingness, if I may say, in a very different way, though the nothingness actually comes in much later. But Carol is taking up this idea of, you read an entire text and you're not able to tell a story properly because there is no story. There are only adventures. There are only episodes that take place. There is no continuity. The continuity, yes, there is a continuity. The characters come on, but the characters don't come on as they came on. They change. For example, the Red Queen was small when she met for the first time, but the second one, again, you see a normal Red Queen, and sometimes you find characters like as I said, the rocking horsefly, who is actually an insect version of the rocking horse that every child has. Humpty Dumpty explains the poem Jabberwocky, and that explanation does not help us at all, except one word gyre. The rest is all again, a different sense, a different way it is phrased. Okay, so this is something that Carol has been doing in Alice in Wonderland. Also, you know, you have words like geography instead of geography. So words are created by Carol. Neologism is a part of nonsense literature, because when you do these kind of new words, then obviously you are the one who supplies the meaning. So you can control the meaning, you can control the context, and you can own a word. You can own a word, and you can tell that this word should mean this because I want the word to mean this. So my ownership of my words, or my ownership of my language, is at a point, kind of, shown in the text of the nonsensical literature. Because when the word Jabberwocky means nothing actually, Bandersnatch, okay, and all these things, these words mean actually nothing. In fact, these places, the places that are described, they also mean nothing. So after that, in chapter 7, the lion and the unicorn, okay, again we have a lot of numbers. When the king says that, how many soldiers did you send out? 4,207. That's the exact number. But Alice saw nobody on the road. So Alice said, I saw nobody on the road. The king said, oh yes, I wish I had such eyes to be able to see nobody, and at that distance too. So, Alice is not being made fun of. These characters are not making fun of Alice. They really believe in such presences. These characters believe in such presences, that yes, so you met nobody. So when the two messengers come, again the two messengers are Hare and Hatter. So when Hare and Hatter come, Hare and Hatter come, they say that yes, we have definitely met. We have not met nobody. We have not met nobody because there was nobody. So I walked faster than nobody because I came here. So these certain things that go on. And the lion and the unicorn, they are fighting for the crown of the king. So after fighting for a while, they are tired and they want to sit down and they want to have a cake. Okay, and Alice is given the duty of cutting the cake and giving it to people. But whenever she cuts the cake rejoins. Again, she cuts the cake, again it rejoins. So that continuous process of cutting the cake and rejoining it, she's flabbergasted, and she says, what's happening? So the king said, don't you know that the time out here goes around in a different way. So first you offer the whole cake to people, and see, I'm reading this part. It's very provoking. I have cut several slices already, but they always join on again. The unicorn remarks, you don't know how to manage looking glass cakes. Hand it round first and cut it afterwards. This sounded nonsense, but Alice very obediently got up and carried the dish around, and the cake divided itself into 3 pieces as she did so. Now cut it up, said the lion, as she returned to her place with the empty dish. And she returns to her place with the empty dish. Now she is going to cut that cake. The cake that has already been distributed, she has to cut it up. This is the way time moves around. And in Alice in Wonderland also, the idea of time as a hymn. So she says that time is it, and she is reminded, no, time is not a it, time is a hymn, H-I-M. And so that is the way it happens. But most interesting in the entire text, I found my personal favorite is chapter number 8. It's my own invention. So you have so many different kinds of inventions out there. There is a knight who cannot ride a horse, who constantly falls off the horse. And that knight, he has lots and lots of inventions. Inventions out there, for example, I'll give an example of certain inventions that the knight has. He has an open box, a tin with the lid opening outside. So Alice says that, Alice asks that, I see you are admiring my little box. The knight said in a friendly tone. It's my own invention to keep clothes and sandwiches in. You see, I carry it upside down so that the rain can't get in. But the things can get out, Alice gently remarked. Do you know the lid's open? I didn't know it, the knight said, in a shade of vexation passing over his face. Then all the things must have fallen out, and the box is no use without them. He unfastened it as he spoke and was just going to throw it into the bushes when a sudden thought seemed to strike him. Can you guess why I did that? Alice said, in hope some bees may make a nest in it, then I should get the honey. But you've got a beehive or something like one fastened to the saddle. Yes, it's a very good beehive, the knight said in a discontented tone, one of the best kind, but not a single bee has come near it. So he has everything. He has a tin that he thinks wants to keep the sandwiches in, but it is upside down. So he wants the bee to come and make a hive out there. Then he has invented, other things as well. A lot of things, and this love for inventions is so interesting that he goes on, and he keeps on repeating that he needs plenty of practice to keep on the horse, to stay on the horse, but his horse, he keeps falling off the horse. But he still goes on saying that plenty of things, okay. And a very interesting part, how can you go on talking? So once the knight falls upside down, so his head is on the ground and his feet are up in the air. Now, Alice goes and tells him, okay, how can you go on talking so quietly head downwards? The knight looked surprised at the question. What does it matter where my body happens to be? My mind goes on working all the same. In fact, the more head downward I am, the more I keep inventing new things. Now, the cleverest thing of the sort that I ever did was inventing a new pudding during the meat course. This is very interesting. In time to have it cooked for the next course? Well, not the next course, the knight said in a slow, thoughtful tone. No, certainly not the next course. Then it would have to be the next day, I suppose. You couldn't have 2 pudding courses in one dinner. Well, not the next day. Not the next day, in fact. I don't believe that pudding ever was cooked. In fact, I don't believe that pudding ever will be cooked. This impossibility of a certain thing, the existence. I want to cook a pudding, but I don't think I will ever cook the pudding. I don't think I will cook the pudding today, or I will cook the pudding tomorrow, or I will ever cook the pudding, but I have a pudding. I have a course. So as I said, to be and not to be at the same time, that is present in this world of nonsense, okay? And what is the recipe of making that pudding? Well, it is blotting paper. He made he wants to make the pudding out of blotting paper. Not very nice alone, but you have no idea what a difference it makes mixing it with other things such as gunpowder and sealing wax. Things you would never ever think of putting in food. And here I must leave you. We just came to the end of the wood. Now, as I was saying in the beginning, that the idea of naming things, that is being talked out here. The knight actually wants to sing a song to Alice, and that song has a name. Now, please follow very closely as I read it, or else it doesn't, The name of the song is called Haddock's Eyes. Oh, that's the name of the song, is it? Said Alice, trying to feel interested. No, you don't understand, said the knight, looking a little vexed. That's what the name is called. The name really is The Aged Man. Then I ought to have said, that's what the song is called. Alice corrected herself. No, you oughtn't. That's quite another thing. The song is called Ways and Means. But that's only what it is called, So, well, what is the song then? Said Alice, who was by this time completely bewildered. I was coming to that, the knight said. The song really is A Sitting on a Gate. And the tune's my own invention. So the name of the song is Haddock's Eyes. The name really is The Aged Man. The song is called Ways and Means. The song really is A Sitting on a Gate. So there's multiple ways of looking at a particular thing. This personal dimension that he gives to the idea of name. The thing, the name and the thing, they need not really relate to each other. You can name something, you can call it something, it can have something, and it can be something else. So these multiple modes of existence that he says are very interesting. And then he has this song, and in the song, I will not read the song because we will run out of time. But in the song, there is a particular first paragraph. I tell thee everything I can. There's little to relate. I saw an aged man sitting on a gate. Who are you, aged man? I said, and how is it you live? And his answer trickled through my head like water through a sieve. I'm not going into the multiple answers that the old man gives because one question need not have one answer. It need not have an answer at all. The riddles can open-ended. They need not have any answers because in this world, logic doesn't work. And his answer trickles through my head like water through a sieve. Okay, so entire through the looking glass actually passes through us like water through a sieve. Okay, and as the night sang the last words of the ballad, he gathered up the rain and then he goes away. Now, in the next chapter, chapter 9, Alice becomes the queen, and I would like to point out a particular part where Alice actually has a behavioral change. And the Alice we meet in Alice in Wonderland and the Alice we have been coming through the looking glass, very polite, very humble, suddenly has the crown on her head and she has a change of personality and she becomes a very authoritative person and she goes to the door of a particular castle, I think, and she orders the door to be open. Okay, but the door doesn't open. So, okay. I'm so sorry. I just happened to jump over a very important portion where mathematics is taken for a troll. Mathematics is completely logic is taken out of mathematics, if I may say, because the red queen and the white queen actually try to test Alice that whether Alice can qualify to be a queen. Just wearing a crown doesn't make you a queen. So she has to answer certain questions. And what are the questions? The first question is a question of addition. Math. What's 1 and 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 1? I don't know, said Alice. I lost count. She can't do addition. The red queen interrupted. Can you do subtraction? Subtraction? Take 9 from 8. 9 from 8 I can't, Alice replied very readily. But she can't do subtraction. Can you divide? Divide a loaf by a knife. What's the answer to that? I suppose Alice was beginning, but the red queen answered for her. Bread and butter. Try another subtraction. Take a bone from a dog. What remains? Alice considered. The bone wouldn't remain, of course, if I took it, and the dog wouldn't remain. It would come to bite me, and I'm sure I shouldn't remain. Then you think nothing would remain? I think that's the answer. Wrong, the red queen said. The dog's temper would remain. So there are preferences. Normally we don't feel. Those preferences are very present. The dog's temper would remain. You see, the dog would lose its temper, wouldn't it? Perhaps it would. Then if the dog went away, its temper would remain. Alice couldn't help but try, she thought to herself, what dreadful nonsense we are talking. Can you do sums? Of course she could do. So there are, many examples, and these two queens, they constantly go around her and give her a lot of things. But when she comes to the door, and she finally goes to a particular door, where it is written Queen Alice in large letters, okay, like the signboard, and there were two bells, visitor's bell and servant's bell, and she wants to ring the bell. Now she thinks which bell to ring. I'm not a visitor, I'm not a servant. There ought to be one masked queen, Just when the door opened a little way and a creature came out. And Alice also had a very, very, authoritative attitude out here. Okay, and she says that nothing, I've been knocking at it. So it doesn't open. Why doesn't it open? And she says, no, you should knock at the door. You should kick at the door, You let it alone, it will let you alone. So doors are presences. Doors are something that they have their opinion. They might open, they might not open. Trees have, their opinion, their feeling, their presence, and all these things are there. So there is a lot of 90 times 9 is all kind of mathematical questions are there. And then what happens is we come to the end of it, and Alice sometimes wonders that why is something, everything in this world so related to fishes? Why is there a poem? There's a song on fishes, and why is it so related to fishes? That is happening in chapter 9. In chapter 10, she shook the table, and chapter 10, chapter 11, and the final chapter, which is chapter 12, these three chapters happen in a whisk, because chapter 10 is one paragraph, chapter 11 is half line, half sentence, and then chapter 12 is her return to reality. So this abrupt chapterization, the way once in chapter 10 and chapter 11, they are on a continuity. Chapter 10, I will again pick up my text and show you so that you come to know how it is. So you can see chapter 10, just a minute, yeah, chapter 10, chapter 11, and chapter 12. So this is the way it comes. I hope I was able to show you. I'm not sure because I could see the mirror image. I don't know if it's gone, but you can take down the PDF versions and go through it. And how this was really also an experiment of, when you come to the end of it, as if Alice is also kind of in the midst of waking, in the midst of sleep, shaking, waking. Okay, so chapter 10 is titled Shaking, chapter 11 is titled Waking, and then the final chapter, chapter 12, which dreams it. So whose dream was it? At a particular time, Alice is informed that she is part of a dream. Now, if she is part of a dream, what would happen if the dream ended? Then she would vanish. She would not be there. So she was wondering, whose dream is it? Was it her dream? Was it her kitty's dream? Because the kitty was with her in the dream, and she had been dreaming, and she wakes up. But when she wakes up, she thinks, she asks the question. The novel ends with a poem, actually. But before that, there is a question: which do you think it was? Whose dream was it? The question is asked to the reader if it was at all a dream. Okay, and maybe that is also very interesting. If dreams are a singular or plural, or if anyone can dream of anything, or if dreams are real or reality is a dream. So there are a lot of hyphenated spaces that nonsense texts address. Before I just end it, I would like to say 2 or 3 things about it. That the idea of battle that I was saying, the White Knight and the Red Knight, I skipped that part purposely because it is not possible to read one entire novel. I have tried my level best to give you an idea of what Through the Looking Glass is all about, the text, because textual study is very important at this stage of your life, because without going through the original text, we only rely on the help text, then it takes out the flavor, and also you lose the essence of understanding in first person what you are actually reading. So we have this concept of White Knight and Red Knight fighting for her because this idea of belonging, this idea of being owned by somebody, that thing is there in Alice. And Alice and her sister, perhaps this duality of 2 kittens, this duality, this thing is constantly there. So, the last poem with which Carol is ending Through the Looking Glass, is not a nonsense poem. It is a very, very nice poem, actually, and I will read that poem out so you will understand, because a text that is full of nonsense poems ends with a sense poem. So is it returned to sense? Up beneath the sunny sky, lingering onward dreamily in an evening of July. Children 3 that nestle near, eager-eyed and willing here, please since the tale to hear. Long has paled that sunny sky, echoes fade and memories die, autumn frosts have slain July. Still she haunts me phantom-wise, Alice moving up the skies, never seen by waking eyes. Children yet the tale to hear, eager eye and willing ear, lovingly shall nestle near, in a wonderland they lie, dreaming as the days go by, dreaming as the summers die, ever drifting down the stream, lingering in the golden gleam. Life, what is it but a dream? That is the ending. Life, what is it but a dream? So I end my reading of Through the Looking Glass, as I promised that it would be a close reading of the text. I've tried my level best to take you on an hour-long or an hour-and-a-half-long journey, actually, through the text. And that would, if you listen to if you listen to the audio book, or if you read this book, this will definitely give you an idea of how through a wonderful, through a wonderful matrix of the chessboard, you are able to take a journey. And it's very, last but not the least, the movement on the chessboard is also very varied and very varied, as you can understand, and valid, VALID, at the same time, because each pawn, each character moves in a distinct way, and there is a rule, and that rule has to be followed. So just as every game has a rule, and every rule has a game, so nonsense texts have a rule, and nonsense text is also like a game that is structured with language, that is structured with sounds, that is structured with meaninglessness, purposeful meaninglessness, so that you can encounter a world where everything is very different. That is very important. Humpty Dumpty tells Alice at a point of time, I don't like your face because there's nothing new on it. You have a normal face with two eyes on both sides of your nose. If you had two eyes on one side of the nose, it would be better. So Alice said, that wouldn't look nice. Humpty Dumpty says, you never know. So difference is something that should be appreciated. Maybe difference or something unusual. We should keep nurturing in us that spirit of respecting the unusual once we read the nonsense text. I hope all of you will read this text and like it. Thank you so much. Hello?
Thank you, Professor Chatterjee. Thank you so much. This is so intimately detailed, so critical reading of the text. This is absolutely imperative with the conception and the thought and the notion of the web workshop that we have earlier conceived of, earlier thought of. So this is fantastic. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I was thinking of the metaphor of chase, which is connected with the deterministic or predestined notion of fate, notion of life, and it is being totally darvid, unsettled, continuously unsettled through the intrusion of the concept of nonsense poetry, nonsense literature, and the nonsense element that is unsettling the concept of Victorian rationalism, Victorian rationality, the rule of the fate that is being unsettled. And this project is very much interesting and very much connected with Victorian fiction, Victorian literature, and critique of Victorian fiction. And when you are talking of the connection between the mirror, the looking glass, and the dream world, I was thinking of Freudian psychoanalysis, that the connection between the real, imaginary, and the symbolic world. And this is a kind of, I think, what I got from your lecture, from this discussion, that this is a sort of backward moving journey, a backward movement from the real to the world of the imaginary. It's happening in the infantile level, infantile world. And this is absolutely a kind of proto-Freudian discussion, psychoanalytic experience of a child, infantile psychoanalytic experiences from the world of the real, mundane, trivial realities into the world, and intrusion into the world of the imaginative, full of symbolic elements, full of symbols and the metaphors used, and the nonsense elements, the nursery rhymes, twisted poetry. This is beautifully metaphorized, surrounded world, and the symbolic and the imaginary are interspersing together, and this is a backward moving journey from the world of the real, from the reality, as we have learned from Freud or Lacan. And mirror is a fantastic metaphor, fantastic image. This actually inaugurates the fantasy and the production of the subject, the I before the world, and the infantile I, the child, the children, the child self vis-a-vis the mirror. And this is fantastic. And I think a lot of elements, a lot of things came up in your lecture, in your discussion. I hope we'll have some questions. A considerable number of questions are there in the chat box and also in the YouTube live video. So Subrata, I think you can take up some of them, and pitch in here, put forward to Professor Chatterjee. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anirban. And before I go on to the questions, I must say that Anirban has done the thing that I couldn't. My voice was failing at the end of it. I really wanted to go into psychoanalysis, but I would also encourage students to read various theories into it. There is the theory of I feel post-colonial reading of a little girl venturing into worlds, new worlds, and not knowing, almost bringing now if I may digress a bit. I hope I am not taking your time. So if I can digress a bit, it's almost like you bring in you're used to, that is very illegal, but you used to bring in a little girl to work at your home, and how that girl adjusts to the world. So the feminist reading can be there. It's a wonderful text that can have so many ways of dealing with it. Psychoanalysis is definitely the basis, and you can also explore other ways. So yes, Shubhrato, I would like to take the question. Yes, thank you, Anirban, so much. I'm flattered. Yeah.
It's been a wonderful journey, I kept struggling to believe that you have been, in such a horrible time. I mean, in terms of physical, problem. Such a dreaded disease you had been dealing with. It was so difficult to believe that you had gone through such a difficult time of your life, because not a single moment was there. Not a single moment I found where you were lacking energy or enthusiasm or your dynamism. Everything was so alive, Lovely presentation.
I wanted my lecture to be something that you are recording, I'm sure, because when students go home, they should have something with them. No, they are attending a workshop, so when they go home, they can have the text. They don't want to read the text. They don't have the time to read the text, maybe because the exams are going to be held and all those things are coming up. So they can just listen. They can just listen to whatever I went through, whatever I spoke during the last 1 hour, 1.5 hours, so that it will help them. They will be able to understand the novel every time they listen to this particular lecture. So that was my target. That is why I didn't go much into context. Rather, I stuck to the text.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, you have taken all the 12 chapters, at a go in such a short span of time. It is absolutely incredible, And I would say that, a negotiation between, sense, nonsense, rational, irrational, past, present, all these things have come out into the...
Please. I can't hear you, the question.
Oh, this is absolutely brilliant. Shubhrata, can you make yourself visible?
I'm able to hear you, but I can't hear Shubhrata.
Yeah. Someone asked Akash Bhattacharya. Yeah.
Yes.
Someone has asked that can you please tell what is the source of the text, or from where the novel has been taken? This is a very elementary kind of question.
This is a very elementary. No questions. Like Alice was always, whenever she asked a question, she was snubbed. You're asking such a question. You shouldn't ask such a question. There are so many, so many places from which the text has been taken, but Carol didn't want to acknowledge about the identity of Alice. But basically, it is a construction of, a compilation of the characters that normally still imagine, or it's just a way you imagine words. Words.
Right.
The story. If I don't want to go into criticism, but if you really have to go into criticism, the word and meaning. So who decides the meaning? You can own the meaning, I said. The meaning can be absolutely yours. So the text is something that is created by Carol to not talk about the sources. I will not talk about the sources, because this workshop is dedicated to initiate you to do certain things. We will not tell you everything. There will be particular part. I'm not trying to outline the question, but I'm trying to initiate in you the interest to read the text and to go and find out what the sources are, because it is very easy to find out. So that is my, I do that in my class also, my students. I don't always personally do.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Actually, before I get to the question, I've got another question, Anirban. But Bikram Mandal, I think everybody must be agree with Bikram Mandal. Bikram Mandal says First of all, I want to say, ma'am, that you're looking so beautiful today.
Oh, I think Corona
It has
makes you
become
beautiful.
Corona has failed to undo your beauty. You know how you present in the presentation. Everything is so beautiful.
See, Corona is something
Well,
that is more or less going to happen to us. There's nothing to be afraid of it. And
yes, yes, yes.
beauty is something in the eyes, lies in the eyes of the beholder. And I think I have got a very good camera, so the wrinkles are not being shown. But the real beauty is in the text of Through the Looking Glass. I am in
Absolutely.
love with this text. I am in love with this text. And you should, this textual study is something that is lacking, that is going away. Anirban will also agree with me, I think, because, and Subrata definitely, because I have a feeling that people are not reading text for a while, and that actually goes a long way, because you only read the context. You only have puddings, but the puddings are made of blotting paper and gunpowder, but they don't have the essence of pudding.
Right.
So it's very important to read text. That's what I feel.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
for the
Actually,
compliment.
yeah, you had been dealing with a technique called close reading, but close reading is generally thought that it will be unfolding the hidden layers or perspectives, in the text. But the interesting thing is that I deny to call it a close reading. I would go a step forward to call it an intimately detailed reading. You have gone intimately, detailed reading, because all the characters have been so alive all through your presentation. Be it the characters, Kitty.
Carol is dealing with this time-place directive. He denies the unity of time, place, and action.
Yes.
That's what he's not. He does just
Spatial temporal, yes, unity.
Yes, he's not
Is
even
challenged.
interested. No, he's
One
not
question
interested.
is, yeah.
Yes.
Pardon?
There is one
Go
question
ahead.
which is related to this conception of time.
Yes, please.
The concept of time is here followed the science rigid theory, where the flow of time is really doesn't matter, or better say the calculation of time is really matter.
Yes, but
Yes, it
is
is.
that a question?
Yeah.
Reflection.
Can you just tell me once more? I couldn't get it actually.
She's talking about the very linearity of time, which
Okay, yes, time is not linear.
questioning. Yeah.
Time is very whimsical. This was in the Jabberwocky poem also. Whimsy, that's all. Time is whimsical. Time moves as it wants. So, in a particular section, the queens are discussing that there are sets of days. For example, 2 Tuesdays in a week. There can be a set of Thursdays. There can be a set of Fridays. A time can have a name. 4 o'clock can be called brilliant. Okay, so there can be time. In Alice in Wonderland, time is a male. It's him, as I said in my lecture. So someone says that you don't know what's the time. What time is it? We normally say, what time is it? But it's not, time is not an it. Time has a gender. So, how the personification of time takes place, and yet in Looking Glass, time is again something, cyclical, may I say. Okay, so you have, in the very beginning, there's snow, and Alice is speaking to snow. And I have also spoken about isolation, loneliness. I feel that Alice is suffering from loneliness, and that is what pushes her. Her sister is sitting and reading the book. In Alice in Wonderland, the sister is sitting and reading the book, and she finds no interest in the book because the book doesn't have pictures. So that is why,
right.
In Through the Looking Glass also, Alice in Wonderland also, it sketches very much like Blake. The pre-Raphaelite thing is there.
Yeah.
I'm
this
just
is really
jumping from
yeah.
Yeah.
This is really interesting because by remaining within the Victorian framework, discursive framework of the European conception of time, she is continuously interrogating, parodying this conception. This is really brilliant. This linear concept of time.
Time is something that has
this is
a
again
mood.
connected with the dream world that she is exploring in the text.
Yes. And also, it is very cinematic. That is one word I was looking for.
Yeah.
The novel is very cinematic. There are various films that you can watch, my dear students, which are very good, but it's better to read first, first and reading. And Anirban, I find it so similar to the Potter novels, to the Potter series, so much of influence I find, because there are lots of nonsense literature, but Potter is not nonsense literature, it's fantasy. And these lines between gibberish, fantasy, nonsense, these things are also very interesting. How these subtle lines of difference are there. What is absolute nonsense? What is deliberate nonsense? What is like nonsense but with deep sense underlying it? All these things are present in Carroll. Carroll is doing all these things. He is not, see, the last poem, the poem with which it ends, that is not a nonsense poem, and yet it is a nonsense text. So these things are there.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, one thing I can't help, saying that, in one part of the text, and as you also rightly mentioned, that, White Queen, she was found that she was plastering her hand, then she starts screaming in pain. Then she, prings her hand on a brooch. So this is how the concept of time is challenged. The unity of time and place is challenged. And I would like to think that the being inspired by such a beautiful lecture that you're presenting, students will go back down the line to the habits of reading the actual books. They have been so much fascinated by the technological advancements in terms of they have got 3D picturizations of imaginary worlds, but I want them to go back down the line and read the books actual that have been empathizing right from the beginning, that you need to have a very intense, intimate relation with the text. Text needs to be taken seriously. So that's why I wish that they will be motivated by your, all the speech, and they will go back to the text and focus right back on the text,
Yes, in that would lie the success of this
Can
work.
we take up 1 or 2 questions from the audience?
Yes, please.
Can we take up 1 or 2 questions? Please unmute your microphone. Please unmute your microphone and please put forward to Professor Chatterjee. If any of you have any query or question or comment regarding this lecture, regarding the text, you can.
I think one question. S. Shill has a question. He says, he or she, I don't know, what is the importance of chessboard in Through the Looking Glass? It has been touched upon by ma'am, I have found several times, but still.
Chessboard.
The question, chessboard. What is the significance of chessboard in the Through the Looking Glass? The text chessboard. You have touched upon it several times, I have found, but still you can reiterate it once again.
No, it's all about numbers, because Carroll was a mathematician. You have the chessboard and you have boxes, the squares, okay, and there's this peculiar thing about chess. You are restricted and you are free at the same time. So speaking about the dualities of existence, right? So you are restricted by time, you're restricted in movement, but you're also free. How are you free? Because it's a dream world. The Red Queen, the White Queen, and Alice, they become 3 queens. So I was seeing the question. Somebody's asking, how does Alice become a queen when 2 queens are present in the game? Right. Alice can become a queen when 2 queens are present in the game, because this is her, her world, her creation. So she can become anything, and anything can happen. And this possibility, this opening up, this open-ended, something that is not bracketed, something that is not contained, something that is not limited. This deconstruction, if I may say, though I'm talking about 19th century, but suppose I have a deconstructive kind of way of reading. This is the perfect text, I feel, because this is the text that really opens up as you want to read it. You want to read, Humpty Dumpty, you want to read body shaming in it, you have it, because you have things like, Alice couldn't make the difference between a collar and a cravat because it is fat. Humpty Dumpty is fat. And Tweedledum and Tweedledee fights with each other with a saucepan on the head. So that is comical. But at the same time, that also shows their beautifulness, because they're bound to fight. They will fight. They have decided to fight because they adhere to certain rules. So you adhere to rules and you overcome them. You cross brooks, but you end up in again another world. So the importance of the chessboard is just a symbolic thing of life. That is what I feel, because we really don't know what lies for you once you move from one square to another. You don't know what stands there. So this unpredictability of life is also there. That is one of the reasons I think.
Absolutely.
you.
Anirbandha, I think we should not be torturing ma'am anymore because it's been more than 2 hours now.
Yeah. So, Momita, are you here? Hello? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Can you listen to
Yes,
me?
you're audible. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. This lecture and Q&A session was indeed fantastic. Professor Chatterjee's presence has encouraged us in terms of tackling the devastating time of pandemic with indomitable spirit, I'm sure. And her lecture introduced us to the wonderful experience of reading a text like Through the Looking Glass. It was amazing to understand nonsense literature, be acquainted with the literary elements, and to read those literary elements in Lewis Carroll's text. Such a detailed and engaging reading had taken us to the world of Carroll, where he blends reality with imagination.
Yes.
We are extremely grateful to Professor Shantipura Chatterjee for her wholehearted engagement with the participants, her extremely energetic way of delivering the lecture, her reading and analysis of important lines will help students to think critically about the text. Such close textual reading is absolutely mandatory for students in the undergraduate stage.
Yes,
Dr. Chatterjee's lecture, yes ma'am. Dr. Chatterjee's lecture remarks how rewarding these sessions can be for our dear students, as this 7 days workshop on women's writing and popular literature is primarily designed for the benefit of undergraduate students in the CBCS course pattern. On behalf of organizing committee of IQAC and Department of English of Shantipur College, we thank Professor Chatterjee for such a thorough, academically engaging and informative lecture. We thank all the participants, faculty members, and research scholars who have been with us in this session. It is our heartfelt request to all the participants to stay with us like today. Please share your insights and engage with our eminent resource person. It will be extremely enriching for everyone, I'm sure. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much, Anirban.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
we
you,
wish a
thank you,
speedy,
sir.
very speedy recovery, a complete speedy recovery.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you so much.